Check, 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 check. All right, ready? Let's go. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome to another Crush Live call-ins. I'm your host here, Bart Hanson, and welcome to YouTube. The number here is 323-348-1281, 323-348-1281 is the number. And we are streaming live on YouTube, hopefully like we're going to be doing every week. So I have some callers here that are on the phone, but I'm not quite sure. Zambrota, anybody there? Not quite sure why I am not hearing them. Let's see here. Hello? Hello? All right, guys, try to bear with me and give a call back in to. Okay. Not sure exactly what's happening. Hello, 818, are you there?
Joining conference now.
All right. All right, guys. So the number is 323-348-1281, 323-348-1281 is the number. We are going to start here with caller in the 954, and then we're going to go order to 818 and then 609. Welcome to Crush Live call-ins on YouTube. Who is this, Florida?
How's it going? This is Chris. I'm in
Hey, what's up,
LA.
Chris?
Not much. I got a hand from the 5-5 at Commerce, the 3 to 500 game.
Okay, so give me 1 second here. All
Yeah.
right, so you have a hand here from Commerce 5-5. I spent quite a bit of time there. I was just there over the weekend. All right, shoot, go for it.
Okay. So I've got a limp from under the gun in middle position, and then I'm in the cutoff. I have King 10 of Hearts.
Okay.
I raised to 20. I think that all the villains cover me. It's around 700 effective.
Okay,
That's about my stat.
got it.
The button calls,
Uh-huh.
and the other two limpers call.
Okay.
Everybody in the hand is like fairly competent. One is like a dealer. Yeah, we'll get
That
into
doesn't
it.
mean that they're competent, especially if they're a dealer, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, she was playing, but yeah, she was playing very aggressive and kind of knew what she was doing. She was check raising draws and such, like something that is not every 5-5 player.
Okay, fair enough.
So the flop comes 10 of spades, 4 of hearts, deuce of hearts.
So you're the raiser, and the flop comes 10 of spades, deuce of spades, 4 of hearts. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so
10 of spades, sorry, 10 of spades, deuce of hearts, 4 of hearts. So I flop top pair and flush draw.
okay, so pretty big flop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Checks to me, I bet out 55,
Okay.
and all 3 people will call.
All 3 people call? Wow. Okay. This is interesting because you get into
Um,
these weird spots in these cap games. Although you're not even that capped. I mean, you've started with over 100 big blinds. It looks like the pot is like what, like $300, something like that, probably now.
yeah,
Yeah,
a little bit over 300 going to the turn.
yeah. Okay.
Um, and this is kind of where I got thrown off. So the turn's a five of clubs,
Uh-huh.
and it checks to me again, and I bet out 205.
So you do have the button right to your left, right? Like you're not last to act. You've got one person to your left, right?
Correct.
And what's the deal with the button? I mean, is there any?
The button is honestly probably he's the most solid player of the three.
Yeah.
He's just obviously thinking player. I saw him call down a guy three streets with like third pair and
Mhm.
be good. I played a hand against him where he was like pushing for value with top pair, top kicker,
Mhm.
and we chopped the pot. Just he's definitely someone that he takes his time with every decision, and I would say he was probably the best player at the table.
I mean, I don't think that it's all. I mean, I think your sizing is a little bit large. I mean, a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, well, you don't want to play a pot this big with just one pair. You don't want to get driven off of your flush draw." But even you've got three specific opponents here. I still feel like you have the
Yeah.
best hand here a ton. I mean, the only thing that the five does is, it really completes ace three. If
Yeah.
somebody was
Of course.
calling with the ace three, that's pretty much all that it really does, right? I mean, I don't know
And
how crazy these guys are if they're ever calling with like 6-3, but you're either ahead or you're still behind, and really you're only behind at ace 10, unless of course somebody's kind of slow playing. But I see Zambroda in the
yeah.
chat too. I might bet like 125 to 150. I think the sizing might be a little bit large, but then again, it's 5-5, it's the commerce, it's a jungle, and if you think that anybody's calling with a 10, I guess it can be
I
okay.
yeah. I think that the dynamic of the table was like very aggressive, and people were kind of people were betting big, and there was a lot of three betting at this time.
Hmm.
Um, so I felt that if anyone had Jack 10, Queen 10, they were definitely calling, and then any other like random draws that may be there.
Right,
Um,
right.
like I don't know. Um, but yeah, I kind of froze here. I wasn't really sure. I worried that if I checked, it would just kind of like look so weak or give someone else an opportunity to take it down, because then I get bet into and it's a little strange.
Yeah, but you don't. But again, though, there's a difference between you being out of position on the turn here, right? And then that's why it's important that there's only one guy left to act. I mean, you could check, and then if it gets checked through, it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, there are some one-liners and stuff out there. I don't hate a bet. I'm just saying that it's not as big a deal
Yeah.
as I think that you think it is by
Okay.
checking and then like feigning some sort of weakness. Because, like I said, the only thing that a five changes is the fact that ace three gets there, unless somebody was slow playing something anyways. Like, say for example, you check this through and the button checks, and now the river is like a seven, and then it gets checked to you again. You know what I mean? You can value bet, or if you feel like somebody might have ace 10, I guess you could check it back. Queen 10 is probably a check. King 10's probably a bet. But then let's say the river's a 7 and like now somebody bets like, 100 or something like that. You can call, you still have your heart draw. It's just not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
So you bet
okay.
205.
So I bet 205,
Yeah.
and the button called, and the other two fold.
So the guy who's competent calls, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Uh-huh.
so the river here is a brick. It's a seven of diamonds.
So the pot is
So the
705, right? And you have about 400. If I've done this right, you've got about 400 left, right? What did you say the river was?
a seven of
Seven of
diamonds.
diamonds. Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I thought for a while, and I just felt like my hand looked like an overpair. The best case scenario with betting is folding out ace 10, so I just checked. I
Hmm.
just didn't think that this guy was going to call.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I don't hate that. I don't hate checking. The thing is that when you hold two hearts in your hand like this, because I'm assuming this is what's going to happen. I don't know. If you check and he bets, I would think if he's competent, the way that your hand looks and the amount of strength that you've shown by betting the flop and by betting the turn, he really shouldn't have that much of a bluffing frequency. And this is almost like I always bring it back to like saying, whatever you want to call it, Fifth Street Chicken. This isn't really a Fifth Street Chicken thing, but this is where I give the example of how you can check fold when nothing changes except for the fact that your opponent bets. This is exactly right out of the playbook of this is like a deuce to seven no limit hand, which is basically a single draw hand that's played at the World Series, where you watch it. If you watch the live stream, if you watch Tuckman on the live stream, like guys will raise from up front, they'll get called in position. The guy in position will draw one. The guy from up front will pat. The guy from up front will check, and then the guy in position will either bet or he'll check back. And a lot of times when he bets, the guy from up front folds. There's no other information except for the fact that the guy in position has bet. Here, it's almost like the same thing. You check, which I think is fine, but if the guy bets, you probably should check fold, especially when you hold two of the hearts in your hand as like kind of blocking him from having a flush draw.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I felt like, okay, so I check and he bets, he thinks for like a long time, and then he bets 315.
Okay, so you're getting about what, maybe 3.5 to 1?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So he bets 315, okay.
I felt like the fact, like, if I'm going to call down here, I felt like King 10 of Hearts was better than, like, well, I mean, definitely better than Ace 10 of Hearts, because I just felt like the King of Hearts doesn't block so many flush draws that he would be calling with, and then he has, like, basically every ace flush draw.
Every ace-x flush draw. Well, remember, though, the thing is that...
Besides King, Ace, Queen.
Yeah, but look at the board distribution, though, too, right? So say he doesn't have ace king and ace queen because he three bets those, right? Now,
Yeah.
ace three is a straight, right? Now, ace three is a straight. Ace three of hearts is a straight. Ace five of hearts is a pair. Ace seven of hearts is a pair. So if he's not turning a hand into a bluff, now I know you say he's a good player, but I really do feel strongly about the fact that people at this level rarely are going to turn a pair into a bluff in this spot. So now you're really only looking at ace 6, ace 8, ace 9, and like ace jack. There's really only 3 or 4 specific nut flush draw combos that are unpaired here that aren't a straight. So I think it's overly optimistic. Yes, the board is a little bit draw heavy in the sense for him to continue to call, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's got like a nuttish hand here in ace 3. I would just be very, very surprised if he turns over a bluff here. 315, so it's like 10, 20, something like that, 315 to call. I'd be surprised if he turns over a bluff here, one out of, say, like 4.25, 4.5 times for you to be good here. You need to be good here, like, I mean, I know you don't need to be good here all that much between, well, if you're getting almost... You're getting 3.5 to 1, so 3 to 1's 25, 4 to 1's 20, so like maybe 22% of the time, something like that. But I just wouldn't expect you to be good here.
Yeah.
And what
you'd fold.
I would, yeah. What ended up happening?
I called. He had a weird hand. He flopped a set of 4s and then just didn't raise with the draws.
Yeah. Yeah, I just one of those things. Maybe it's like an experience type thing, but with you blocking some of the hearts, it's just I think it's very, very optimistic. I know you're getting a price, but I think that you up till then I think it was played fine, except for the fact that maybe the turn bet's a little bit large. But then on the river, I think you get a check fold. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Cool. All right. Next caller here. Thank you guys for being patient. This is 818. You're up next.
Hey, Bart, it's Zambrotta. How are you?
Hey, Zambrotta. What's going on?
Well done with the visuals and the stuff of the new videos. I made sure I watched them and I liked them. And yeah.
Well, God, hopefully after today, you know what? It's frustrating because I've waited and waited and waited for my friend to help me with the no, it's not. I'm just gonna start putting the videos up. I'm just not waiting any longer. It's been 3 weeks. It should have been done in one day. But the graphics are gonna look better um, than what is up there.
Yeah,
And
but they are already looking better and better, so
yeah,
I
no,
mean,
but I
you're
mean,
going the
like, it's
right
gonna
way,
look
I guess.
it's gonna look much like it's gonna look like it's not gonna be so much of a jumbled screen, basically. But anyways,
Yeah.
haven't spoken with you in a
Just to,
while. What's going on?
yeah, just to let you know, me and this guy, I think Chris, right? We were on a conference call before, and then you dumped us. So just to let you know what
Yeah.
you are doing,
hmm
I don't know what. I just called again, and you
Yeah, for
started
some
the
reason the
talk.
audio didn't pick up at first, so.
And just one more detail. Now I understand what you mean about the LAPC at Commerce. What a fucking jungle! It becomes even worse, man. I've been playing Hawaiian Gardens every day now because I can't, man. I can't
Now it's what?
handle it.
Wait, is
It's
it the
very hard.
combination of just the sheer amount of people and the fact that the donks are kind of diluted? I mean, that's what I say, right?
Even VIPs now table change. They learn
Yeah.
how to table change now. Can you imagine that? Bon, to follow a VIP now, it's just a table change with him. It's
Yeah, that's
hard.
the what ends up the reason why I don't like the LAPC at Commerce, especially for 510, is because you have an influx of players, and people are like, "Well, why? What difference does that make?" And there are a fair amount of decent players. Like there are more decent players than come in than there are bad players. There are certainly bad players that come in, and it's not like these guys are superstars or anything, but it's the fact that the entire player pool is now diluted. And like you say, Zambroda, if there's 7 or 8 tables, the guys that you're trying to kind of go to play with at a table, they just either table change or your table breaks. It's non-stop movement and it's loud and there's a lot of people. It just kind of blows. And the 1020 is bad too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I don't know how interesting is this end, but anyway, I didn't have much better as I was in Brazil and stuff. So, ace, so I have a king of spades.
This is at 510?
Yes.
Okay.
So MP2, it's a girl who speaks Spanish. She might be Spanish or European girl.
Okay.
She opens 35, your size.
Okay.
And the guy after her, which is like low jack or very tight guy, raises to 110.
Okay.
So I'm on the button with the king of spades, and I opt to flat.
Okay. How deep are you guys,
The
by the
reason
way?
1300
Okay.
effective. I don't know. She had like 3000, but
Okay.
the guy on the it's me. It's between me and the girl, so it's 1300 effective. And okay, the reason I didn't three bet here, I'm trying to play more and more aggressive. The reason I didn't three bet here, the guy was not playing any hands. I thought his range was too strong. I didn't want to turn my king into a bluff. I preferred to see flop.
Okay.
So she also calls. She's getting great price, so I guess she calls with most of her range.
Okay.
So three-way pot, 340 in the middle comes king of clubs, 3 of diamonds, jack of spades.
So
So I
king, 3, jack, rainbow. You've got ace, king suited. And you said you're on the button or in the small blind. I missed that.
Button.
Button. Okay.
I'm in position. I flop top pair with the backdoor flush
Right.
draw. The
Mhm.
jack is the jack of spades. It's what is relevant.
Got it. Yep.
They both check. What is your bet?
They both check over to you. I see again. Like for me, it might be a little bit different here, Zambroda, because I feel like
My image.
yeah, your image. I don't hate to check back. I've actually checked back here before, even with my image sometimes too. If you bet here, it is pretty strong. So I don't actually hate a check back here all that much. I think you can also bet kind of small, like 140, 150. Maybe they don't know who you are. I don't know who this
I
chick
bet
is.
140.
Okay.
You got it?
Yep.
No, I don't want to check. You know, it's like poker. They're gonna, I mean, my image. But my image was bad. My image
Okay.
was the image you know on that case because I was not playing any hands or whatever. I bet 240. She snap called.
140 or 240?
No, 140.
140,
I would have
okay.
bet 240.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit small, but I mean, I want on a 3-bet pot. I want
No,
to
I don't
get.
mind.
So
Yeah.
my goal here is to get calls by hands by queens, ace jack suit. I mean ace jack, king queen, yeah, or even ace 10, ace queen with the backdoor flush draw. You know, like call as light as that. So it's why I bet small. It's my intention.
Sure.
She calls, he folds the 3-bet guy.
Okay.
So now the pot 620.
Mhm.
Queen of spades. Interesting turn.
King of spades.
She checks, as I expect her to do.
Wait a minute. You said king
And
of
what?
spades. You can't have the king of spades. You got to get the queen of spades.
Queen of spades.
Interesting card. Yes, queen of spades is a very, very interesting card. Pot 620. Now you have a royal flush draw, right, with top pair. Royal flush draw, right?
She checks what's your play in case you want to give your pick.
I mean, I think you probably should check back here. What are you beating right now that she check calls?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I know you have a royal flush draw, but still.
Yeah, I checked it back, and I mean it's pretty standard. But what if the queen is not a spade? We tend more to bet fold here.
No, I would
What it
still
is,
probably check back because I just I mean, I don't. You know, when you start to think of like the types of hands that, you know, she's gonna open for a raise pre, call a 3-bet, and then check call the flop. I mean, when that queen like peels off, if she doesn't 4-bet like pocket queens, really the only thing you're ahead of is ace queen. You're not gonna get 2 streets from that anyways. If it goes check back on turn and then she checks the river, you can evaluate like to make a thin value bet, right? Because if the turn's a queen and you go check and now the river's like a 3 or a deuce or something like that, and then she checks again, you pretty much, I would think, almost have to have the best hand unless she's playing like king jack suited like super slow. You know what I mean? Or something crazy like. So, but I think it's optimistic to be able to get like 2 streets with ace king and a 3-bet pot on king 3 jack queen and then the river being a blank. Like what is she calling with? Twice, you know what I mean? Unless you're trying to get her off for a chop, you know, like you think you're free rolling with ace king, you know.
All the king queens, queen jack that I was trying to make her call light with.
Yeah.
They got there. The only end is like you said, the ace queen. So even the queen, the queen X might be a check. But
yeah.
I thought you would bet here, to be honest. But yeah, your reasons are good. The pot is still 620.
Mm-hmm.
Ace of club, ace X, ace of club on the river, and she snap goes all in. So it's around $1,000.
So the board is king 3 jack queen ace, right?
Yes, any 10 is a straight. She's competent. She's not a great player. I have 2 sessions that I play with her, and I saw her before overbetting the pot when she picked up. You know, she had like 9-8 of hearts. The flop was 10xx, and then she picked up hearts on the turn, and she overbet. And this was a little detail that made me kind of read that I had on her. She's capable. And
I go back to what I told the caller in the hand before. Here's the thing, is that while it seems peculiar to take a line like this for value with a 10, the problem I have with making some sort of hero call here is that in order for her to arrive on the river here, she has to have something, and the river usually is going to make her strong. So I just don't see people move all in at the end here with queen jack, which is 2 pair as a bluff. I mean, what bluff can she possibly have here? And it makes it harder for me to call because usually the hands that she calls with on the flop are going to have fairly good showdown value here and would never take a line like this as a bluff. So I would almost just have to give her credit. Unless like she's some sort of crazy bizarre player and I've seen her do like nutso things before, like show up here with like king nine suited. You know what I mean? Or something like that. But I mean, ace queen is top two. Do we think she's going to make this play with ace queen on a one liner? Doubtful. Queen jack, king queen. I just don't see any of these hands turning their hand into a bluff.
Queen Jack, I think you should turn into a bluff. But yeah, ace Queen plus, it's a little bit hard. But if you want to be a good player, you have to turn Queen Jack into a bluff in a spot.
Yeah, but I mean, but you can't give somebody, while that might be true, right? You can't. Yeah. When's the last time you've seen somebody turn like your description of this villain turn king queen into a bluff on a board like this? You know what I mean? I can't. It's like it just doesn't happen. So I don't know. What did you do? I assume you folded.
I took that. I folded.
Yeah.
Okay, but,
yeah.
I thought I knew you would say it's a fold because they don't turn it into a bluff and stuff. But so the thing is, you agree with me that Queen Jack, more than Queen Jack, nobody turns. Nobody. I mean, it's very rare to see any King Queen, Ace Queen. Nobody's gonna turn those hands or better into a bluff, right?
I just don't. I mean, it's certainly bizarre, and also too like. It's certainly bizarre. Your hand is obviously no different than like pocket aces here, really, and I mean, that's another hand, too, I think that we would all agree that someone's not turning into a bluff. Like, say she had a set of jacks here, right? Like, is she going to move all in on the river? You know, that would be a stupid bet. So, pocket aces is really the same thing as ace-king here. It almost seems like she might have ace-10 or queen-10 suited, and she just doesn't know what to do at the end. Maybe she thinks you've got pocket aces and you're not going to fold. Or you have ace king.
Yeah, and it's fair. Pre-flop, I give her all the suited broadways. She's getting a great price, and I believe she opens that on MP2. And then when it's 110 and you have a caller, she's getting a great price. So then she can have some queen tens here, even jack 10. I bet 140. I mean, when I bet 140, my goal is to get called by those ends. So I mean, they can, and then there is a.
Did you ever find? Did you ever find out what she had?
No, I'm never a guy who asks. I mean, if I would talk to her, I would maybe ask, but I didn't have the chance.
Well, anyway, I want to tell you. I just let me, Zambroda. I'm gonna bring this hand up on my podcast for tomorrow, but I just want to tell you a quick story because you'll appreciate it. I played a hand against Mr. Song last night where a guy limped in the cutoff and I made it 40 with ace queen of spades. And we were 1,600 deep and Mr. Song in the small blind made it 240. It got back around to me and I called. And the board came out 8-6-7 with two spades. So I have ace queen of spades, right? So he bets out.
How deep are you guys?
What's that?
You guys are very deep or
1,600.
Okay.
So he bets out 500 on the flop into about a $500 pot, right? But I mean, I've got ace queen of spades, right? I've got the nut flush draw. I mean, what more am I asking for, right? I only have about 900 behind. So I shove. I move all in. Well, he tanks for like 4 or 5 minutes, Zambrotta, and he goes, "You have set," and then he finally calls. And then the turn is a deuce, like a brick, an offsuit deuce. And then the river is the ace of clubs, right? So I've got ace, queen of spades, and I say ace. And he turns over ace, king of diamonds on an 8-6-7 two-spade board. So there you go.
Yeah, he does it all the time. Anyway, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, this was more this kind of hand is more about the assumptions because I'm working on my assumptions because if my game goes well and my assumptions are wrong anyway, I'm going the wrong way. Thank you, Bart.
Take it easy.
Keep it up.
All right, 609, you're up next. Caller in the 609. By the way, guys, 323-348-1281, 323-348-1281. Caller in the 609, you are up next.
Hey, Bart, it's Dave.
Hey, Dave, what's going on?
Not bad. If Zambrota's still listening, he's got to give me lessons on how to get hands in position. He's always on the button. I'm always in the blinds.
Yeah, well,
Okay, 5-10 hand.
okay.
This is main table, but I just moved to the main table, so this is my first orbit in.
Mm-hmm.
The villain was on the must move for maybe about a half an hour. He was the first one to move out.
Okay.
He's not very active, but it's only been half an hour. He's middle-aged, foreign. Let's call him a semi-reg. I see him there occasionally.
Okay.
When I say middle-aged, there's one of two appearances. He's dressed all in black, so that might give you another opinion, as
Okay.
opposed to blue shirt and khakis, right?
Okay.
Okay, villain is under the gun +1. He opens for 40. It folds to me in a small blind. I call with queen of spades, king of clubs. Stacks are a little over 3,000.
You're in the small blind, and your head's up.
Right.
Queen of spades. What was it again?
King of clubs, queen of spades.
King of clubs, queen of spades. Okay. I mean, some people would say this is just a fold in the small blind here from a guy who opens semi-early. It's kind of a tough hand to play out of position. I think that people... I've made a call in this spot before, but I think it's probably pretty close when you're in the worst position. Like, if there's a decent player that opens from up front, a lot of times I'm going to fold here in the small blind.
I fold to all the good regs.
Uh-huh.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
This guy, I thought, since he wasn't very active for the half hour I played him before, he's a little bit on the older side, not real old. I thought he would be somewhat conservative.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to miss the flop more often than he hits it.
And you guys are like 1,500 effective, you said, right?
3,000.
Oh, 3,000 effective. Okay.
Yeah. So I thought it might be a good spot to float, to reverse float a little bit.
Okay.
But so I make the call.
Mm-hmm.
Questionable. Flop comes out 8 of spades, offsuit 10, jack of spades. Pot's 80.
So you've got the top end of an open-ended straight draw, right? 2 spades out there.
Correct.
You don't have a spade.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. I check call his $45 bet.
So were you ever thinking of raising, just out of curiosity?
I was, but I thought I would take away his bluffs, and if he does have an overpair or a strong hand, he's never folding.
He bet 45 and you called?
Right.
Now, you say you would take away his bluffs. Are you ahead of his bluffs?
Right now, no, but I got lots of cards that help me, give me more equity.
I mean, yeah, it's one of these things where ace-queen is double-gutted, so ace-queen's not going to fold. It is pretty strong for him to bet here, even if it is heads up from this position. So I just look at it a little bit different, Dave. Like, I feel like you don't have to risk a check raise now. If it goes check-check on the turn, you can just bet the end. The problem, of course, though, is the front door spades. I would like this a lot better if it was rainbow, because it would definitely get through. It really depends on how often these guys are calling with, some guys in your pool are calling with ace high when the draws brick out and stuff like that. But anyways, the pot's 170.
Okay, the turn is a good and bad card.
Okay.
King of spades.
Okay.
So brings in front door spades.
Yeah.
Gives me top pair still open-ended.
Mm-hmm.
So if he was playing of spades, then of course he gets there.
Mm-hmm.
I decide to check call again on the turn.
How much does he
see
bet?
What I think about that. He bets 90.
So he bets about half the size of the pot. You don't have a spade here, and you call again. I mean, just for sheer equity-wise, I think you probably do call here. I mean, you're getting 3-1. Obviously, it hurts you a little bit that you don't have a spade, but I can't imagine how you can just fold to a half pot size bet now that you have top pair and you're open-ended. So I don't really have a problem with that right now.
Okay. So far, so good. and the river brings an offsuit 9.
An offsuit 9. So the pot now is 350. You make a straight. So you check call on 10, like it's up here on the screen. You check call on Jack 10 8. You check call on a king of spade turn. There's 3 spades out there. Now the river's a 9, and it puts a one-liner to a straight out there, but you're losing to ace
You
queen.
lose to ace queen.
Right.
Right. Which is a lot of his range pre-flop, the end of the gun +1, right? Is ace king, ace queen.
Yeah, excuse me. You have the queen of spades in your hand, right? I keep saying that there was no. You did actually have the spade
No,
in your hand.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So you had
Yeah,
you had a
spade.
flush draw,
So
on the turn.
I mean, ideally, I'd want the river to be the ace of spades.
Right.
To not me, but that didn't happen.
Yeah. So what's your thinking here?
A little bit confused. I decided to lead, and one of the reasons why I decided to lead, and tell me if this is off or not, is when I'm in a hand on the opposite side with the made hand and the flush comes in. Whenever someone check calls leads, they like always have the flush.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you find that? Is that a typical line for
Check
the villain to-
call lead is pretty strong, for sure. This is kind of a weird hand because the 9 coming is like such a, like, say he's got aces here, or pocket jacks or pocket 10s or something like that, right? Or pocket kings, even though there isn't that much of a chance that he's got pocket kings, or ace king. Any hand that's not a straight or better, okay? It's
Right.
just one of these things where when the board rolls off like in this manner on Jack 10 8 King 9, it's really, really tough for those hands to call, because it's like, what do you have? You check call the flop. I mean, I go back again. I mean, your opponent's not thinking on this level. You almost have to always have a hand here because of the fact that most people aren't going to turn a hand into a bluff. What I mean by that is that you're going to either arrive with 2 pair or you have at least a straight. So when you bet the river, you should always be strong. Now, with that being said, however, and this is where I think that people don't make the adjustment to live poker, while in theory, we probably shouldn't be betting here with this specific hand on the river because we have so few bluffs in our range, we should never really be called light here, okay? So, we talk about what Phil Galfond sometimes says. He says, like, when your perceived hand is strong, you should value bet less. And when your perceived hand is weak, you should value bet more, right? And that works with bluffs in the opposite direction. That's all true. However, it's live poker. The guy is most likely a losing player, and he still might call with a set here. Do you see what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I
that's what
would
I was thinking too,
still
is-
tend to bet. As crazy, people will come out and they'll be like, how can you bet here? It's, you're repping too strong. Yes, I acknowledge that. But you're playing against a caliber of player that's always going to check back everything else. You're not getting raised here, right? Unless he's got a flush. I mean, that's it. And because you've got the queen of spades in your hand, it's very difficult for him to have the nut flush. I mean, he could have ace 10 of spades. I don't know if he's opening ace x of spades all that much from up front. Let's say he's not opening ace x baby of spades from up front. Then there's really only one possible hand he can raise you with at the end. So you're not even ever getting raised on the river. Yeah, you might value own yourself, but I could see a
if he has-
$125 to $150 bet here.
I was thinking ace of spades, queen X, where he doesn't have the flush, but he has the flush blocker.
Yeah, but he's not going to
and
raise
the higher
though.
straight.
Yeah, but if you check call, and then lead the river, he's just going to call with those hands. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're not going to get raised here at the end. It's almost impossible because you block the queen of spades, right?
I agree.
Unless he's
And I,
he's opening like baby ace x spades baby,
It could be.
So what did you end up doing?
Well, I bet, but I bet out on the small side. I bet 150.
Okay, yeah, I would say
Just
125 to
under half
150.
pot.
Uh huh.
Right. I thought that would force him to call his sets and
Right.
maybe even top 2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
He tanks for quite some time, and then makes it 450.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to raise. I mean, excuse me, I think
Have
you
to
have
fold.
to. Yeah, you have to fold. You have to
I mean,
fold. I just think at the minimum he's got ace queen. There's just, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, and again, you're protected by the board, and you're also protected by your action in the form of check call, lead. Like you should have an incredibly strong hand here, which is kind of the paradox because it's almost our hand being king queen is almost we're almost over-representing our hand by betting on the river because we should arrive at the end with such a strong hand. Given this run out, king queen might not even be a hand that's strong enough to bet, but we're betting because of what we just talked about, the caliber of live players. But with that being said, when he raises you, because you look so strong, his bluffing frequency, he has to have a hand here always. You know what I mean? So,
If I decided to check the river
mhm.
and he bets, say, 2/3, 3/4 pot, is that a fold still?
um,
I think the bet fold is an easy line. It makes a lot of sense, but I wasn't sure if I decided to check if that was a call or a fold.
so if you checked and he bet what, like 250 or something like that,
Correct.
ugh, that's probably pretty tough. I mean, at that point, you look at if he's never bluffing and you're calling sometimes to chop, you're calling 250 for 175. I tend to not make like big laydowns when I just go check call. So I might look that up depending on the sizing, but it's really got to depend on the player. I mean, there's some guys that I would just snap fold that to. It's
Yeah,
tough
and he
for me
went.
to say in a form set like in this kind of vacuum type of setting.
And for a middle-aged guy to go 3 streets of value, that's pretty strong in itself.
Yeah, and again, for you to really be winning there with just a bare queen, you'd have to be turning some hand into a bluff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but thanks for the call as always, Dave.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
So I'm gonna look at the live chat here. Today, 32 says, is it valid to say that check call lead weak is probably not indicative of a flush? Hold on 1 second. Let me. This guy's making a lot of noise here. Is it valid to say that check call lead weak is probably indicative of a flush? Seems like it to me. Yes. I mean that we talked about that. Yeah, and actually Dave brought that up in the beginning of the call that it does seem like a flush. And again, the hand itself is kind of a little bit of a paradox because of the fact that king queen is almost too weak to bet there for value in theory because we look so strong. But again, when you're dealing with a weak class of live player like we frequently are, I can't. I think it's actually correct. All right. JG, New York, you're up.
This is me?
Yeah, this is you.
All right, let me mute that so I'm not hearing the double quotes. All right, anyway, so live hand, 2-5 no limit. New casino just opened upstate.
Is that the one in Schenectady or whatever? The
yes,
Rivers?
correct,
Is it called
yes.
Rivers? Yeah.
Just opened this week.
Yeah.
I checked it out Friday.
How is it?
Small, 15 tables, but it was full. Large
Okay.
wait list, so
Yeah.
that's what it is. So max minus 1,000, I bought it max. Burned pretty well, up to a little over 2K. Bill in this hand's an old woman, probably 70s. She's a little wild. Took a couple pots off her. One was like I had an 8-3 in the big blind. She doubled me up. I flopped 2 pair and a limped pot. She kind of went a little crazy with an open-ended draw where I like potted the flop. She called. Someone else called. I potted again. The turn the board was like 8-3-6. She had 9-7. Turn was queen. I bet 100. She min raised. I 10 called and check called an ace river for whatever the last $100 she had, and she just showed an open-ended. So she's kind of spazzy. Trying to think of another hand where she spazzed out. She kept rebuying for 200. One hand, she's like ace-4 suited, small blind. Someone limped. She made it 20. I had ace-king. I made it 65. She shipped in the rest of her money for like $1.50. I called her, and it ran out. We all missed, and my ace-king was good. So she's kind of capable of gambling. But anyways, onto the hand. somewhat limps early position. She makes it 20 in, I want to say, hijack or cutoff. I guess cutoff. I think there was someone between us. So she's cut. No, I'm sorry, hijack. She makes it 20. I got queens in the button.
Now, is she only 200
85.
deep, James, right now, or did she?
No. She actually is really deep right now. She is eight or 900 deep. She had won a couple pots. She made like a straight or something versus someone.
Yeah.
Anyways, she makes it 20.
Mm-hmm.
She's not. I don't know. She's been kind of quiet lately. But she makes it 20. I look down at queens. I make it 85. Folds back to her.
Yep.
She makes it 200. And she's about 800-ish deep. And, I mean, I guess based on the description I gave you earlier, leads you to want to give her action, but the fact that she's, like, a really old woman, and generally they don't really get out of line, made me kind of put her on a big hand. There's a little table talk involved as well. Like, if I call, can we check it down? She thinks for a second. She's like, no, I'd rather not. I was like, okay. She's like, well, I'll show you if you fold. So I don't know. I'm kind of putting her on a pretty big hand here.
Well, I
But,
mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? Like, I don't think that we think that there really is a bluffing frequency, right, of an old lady who's going to basically 4-bet you, right? Open 3-bet, you 4-bet, unless there was some sort of crazy dynamic. So I'll ask you, James, too, and then everybody else that's listening, because it's actually not a bad way to think about this, especially if you're playing a lot of tournaments coming up to the World Series. If her range is aces, kings, and all the ace kings. So let's say her range is ace, king, aces, and kings. If you were to get it in with queens against that range, I'm not even saying, like, how do you think you fare? Like, how do you think that queens is versus aces, kings, and ace, king?
pretty bad, it seems like. But it depends. I mean, there's more combos of ace-king,
Right.
I guess.
That's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, like, so there's 6 combos of kings and there's 6 combos of aces, right? So you got 12 combos right there. Now, there is 16 combos of ace-king. Let's just say that they're even combos. Let's say she doesn't always do it with ace-king. This is just so I can go through some kind of like stove in your head, crunch in your head type of thing. This is how I would do it if I was trying to figure this out, right? So if we've got queens, we're 55% versus ace-king. 55%. Now, if she's got kings and aces, we're 18%. So all we actually have to do, because I've just like made it really, really simple, I've actually weighted the combos equally. All you would do actually would take 55 and 18 and then just average them. There's 2 sample sets, so you would just, take 73 and divide by 2, right? And that's your actual equity there. It's about 36 or 37%.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And, if you throw in more ace kings, it's probably going to be a little bit higher. So a lot of times people say, well, I think she's got ace king, I think she's got aces, and she's got kings. The problem here is against that range in a tournament, if you're ever getting anything close to like 1.5 to 1, which is about 40% equity, and you have chips, it's really difficult to fold in this spot with queens. And I feel like in a tournament, also people will go a little bit more nuts with pairs. That being said, it's a cash game. I mean, again, you're probably going to know better than me, like what the flow dynamic is, but I would think that I would be calling here a lot, James, in position, and then trying to get a read on the board and what she does post. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was leaning to call. Anyways, I mean, hand ended there. I think someone called clock on me, and I ended up tanking and folding. So
okay, so I mean, I don't think that's terrible. If you never think she's, it really comes down to how often you think that she has ace, king, or jacks. If you don't think she's doing that often, then you can just dump the hand. I mean, you are getting, the other interesting thing too is that it's only 125 more, right? I mean, it's only 115 more, right?
115, yeah.
I mean, the pot is going to be, what, 400, 115 to call, and then she's got another 600 behind, so...
Yeah, she's roughly 800 something or other. A little more, I think, even 850-ish. I don't remember the exact number, but it was definitely at least 8.
So go through this too here is that, let's say that there was no more money to be won. and the pot.
I think I'd gamble if she's just 200.
Yeah, I
I'd
mean,
gamble.
well, if it's 80, if you go 85 and she goes 200, so it's 285 and it's 115 for you to call. You're getting, way more than 2.5 to 1. Here, 115 for 285 plus another 600 is 115 for like 885. Now, the reason why I say that is because even if she were to like say turn over aces right now, and we said that you were going to go broke, even though you knew she had aces, you were going to go broke on a ragged board, then you wouldn't want to call. But I think that the fact that you actually have 8 to 1 in implied odds for a set, plus I feel like you might be able to gauge what she has through her post flop sizing, skews this
And
skews this.
implied odds. Are you sure that math is right? 8 to 1 on implied odds?
Well,
Seems a little off.
so 85. So the pot rate. So it's 20 to 85 is
close,
105, right? And then
115.
so
yeah,
that's
maybe it's about 8 to 1.
Yeah,
I guess I kind of forgot about how much was in the pot. So
yeah,
it's close to
230. And then you're going to make another 600. So it's like you're calling 115 to win like 800 or 830. Like I said, that's not quite enough for you to set mine. But I feel like that coupled with the fact that you still might have the best hand and can gauge what she has post, as long as you're not super concerned about the fact that you have, big time reverse implied odds. But I mean, I've actually folded like queens in a spot like this before where maybe the board comes out rags and somebody like makes an absurd bet like all in, but they just never are bluffing. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like that coupled with that would make me kind of call pre. I don't hate the fold, but that's kind of along the lines of what I was thinking because of that stack depth.
I think that the table talk is kind of what made me think about the reverse implied odds thing, because she said word for word, I have a big hand this time, and how she didn't want to just check it down. She's like, no, I want to keep betting.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm probably going to end up going broke here to a bigger pair based on what she's saying. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, again, it's kind of like a game flow type of scenario. But somebody in the live chat, Goombus3040, is saying that he folded queens in a similar spot in a tournament 3 ways and then did stove and realized how bad a fold it was. Yeah, I just think that sometimes it is. I mean, this is obviously a different scenario. It's a cash game. It's not a tournament. We're dealing with pretty strong. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, totally.
But you just have to factor in tournaments how often people play ace king like it's the nuts. And if they're always playing ace king like it's the nuts, there are almost at 3 times as many ace king combos as there are aces, as there are kings. Here, obviously, it's a little bit different. Like I said, I would tend to call because you're getting 8 to 1 in implieds, coupled with I feel like I'd be able to gauge her strength post through her sizing. But thanks for the call, James. Appreciate it. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap things up. Thank you for joining me on YouTube, and I am off to play the $1,100 08 tournament at the Commerce. This is for a little bit of practice, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.